Driessen of Driessen's Guide Service and Swimbait Manifesto. And due to popular demand, we're getting a lot of messages about the hook leash combinations that I've been fishing with this season, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. I'm getting a lot of messages. Guys are asking why I'm using a hook leash, what it does, and how do you make it. All of which are pretty broad questions with very broad answers. I mean, the fishing industry it's a huge industry. So you got freshwater, saltwater. It's so extensive, and there are so many methods used. There is no right or wrong answer here. So you got to find what works for you, and you go with that. The first one I ever saw, I had Mike Profumo come out and fish with me, and he had them rigged on his baits. I thought it was gimmicky. I was not impressed, and I'm a pretty old-fashioned style kind of fisherman, so sometimes I'm a little closed off and not willing to try new things. But once I saw this in action and what the benefits were, I'm a believer. I mean, I have this stuff on all my baits now. This is one I did for king salmon fishing this year. That's an OG Lure Jensen K16 quick fish, and we were getting a lot of short bites. King salmon would hit this thing, and my customers would have them on for a second and then lose them, or they would just get ripped and never have a fish. So these specific hooks here on this bait, you can actually buy straight offline from Nichols Custom Lures. They have them in various different sizes. These particular assist hooks are actually made in collaboration with the Nichols Ben Parker Magnum spoon. So Brooks designed these they go on the top of the spoon, and when the bass anglers are fishing them in deep water, if fish are not hitting the bottom of the spoon and hitting the top, you're going to miss a lot of bites. So they've come out with these assist hooks, and they rig right next to the line tie on the top of a spoon. But that doesn't mean you have to use them for that. So they're strong, they're really tough, and they're fairly inexpensive. So Nichols Lures is a pretty good option for one if you don't have time to just spend building your own. That's a good step to go. They have them in multiple sizes. You can get small ones, you can get big ones, and the hooks are extremely sticky. So when the hook leash fad really kind of started, they were pretty simplistic designs. This is the way that a lot of guys used to rig them, which was a simple piece of Dacron and shrink wrap. They would shrink wrap it on there, and that was what you had. I'm not a fan of this. It doesn't look that strong. I'm just not confident with it. I've fished it. I've caught fish on this hook, but it's still not my first choice. If I'm gonna change to something, it's gonna be something that has zero possibility of it failing, which is the reason why you want to go to a hook leash in the first place, to increase your hookup ratio. If we talk about standard terminal tackle split rings, we use, when Brock sends these baits, man, they've got some pretty hardcore gear on them. It's obviously not the biggest in the world, but we're talking 150, 200 pound split rings, and the ST 36 and 38 models hooks from Owner, and they catch a lot of fish. But it's not even about huge fish. It's about the fish that are really athletic and tumble on the surface with the bait. And a 20-pound striper is probably the hardest fighting fish per inch that you could hook in California. I mean, when they get that bait on the surface and they start thrashing, they do this cartwheel thrash on the surface, and I've seen them straighten this stuff like it was nothing. Just a 20-pound fish. So what you're doing is you are taking away the path of least resistance. This has a bending and a break point. That's all you get. So when you go to a leash that has been rigged, you have all this room now. You know, you can see how far around that twists like that, and it gives you a whole nother angle of leverage on the fish that you didn't have before. Um, it's invaluable. I mean, really, I I don't miss fish anymore. I don't if I get them hooked, they stay hooked. Um, Granted, I've been fishing this for about a year now, and I've hooked a solid amount of fish on it. But I mean, I wouldn't say that it's like 10 years tried and true. You know, it's still a work in progress. I'm still finding out different ways to rig it, different ways that I like it. This one here being probably the best way that I have seen and fished myself personally, which is the same way that I rig them all now. And it's a really simple design. You can do it on the boat. You don't need any tools. You just need a Dacron assist cord and a little bit of super glue, and you can go from there. They have Kevlar too that you can use, but from what I hear, it breaks down in sun really quickly, and you know, once it gets sun rot, it's on its way out. This is over 12 months old and has caught probably 50 to 75 fish. So another thing is I've you know, gone to using the Nichols ones. I caught a 30-pounder on this exact bait with these exact hooks a week ago. I'm calling this a breakaway method. It's a really simplistic design. It is still rigged with a split ring, which does kind of defeat the purpose, but because you have the assist cord, you do have a full range of motion against the fish. The odds of that split ring failing are much smaller than if it was just a straight up hook to a split ring. So I am rigging that on with big red worm stretchy bait wrap. I mean, we use this stuff for wrapping quick fish, sardines. It's cheap, 1 pound test. It stretches, it breaks. So, you know, the idea is when you hook your fish, they break it away from the bait, which then gives you the full range of motion to fight them, you know. Now that fish I hooked the other day, I had it wrapped a little bit too thick, and I think probably the first 2 or 3 minutes that I fought this 30-pound fish, it didn't break away. And when it finally did, I thought I broke the fish off. I thought I lost my bait and everything, because it was so abrupt when this broke away from the bait itself. I mean, it felt like shit went wrong. Fortunately, it was just the string breaking and it whipping away from the bait, and I was still able to land the fish. But like I said, this is still a learning curve, so even now I would consider this probably a little too much wrap on there. You only want enough to where it's not twisting on the bait, and when it hits the water, it's not ripping off of the bait. I mean, you just want enough for it to hold there. You know, it's not reinventing the wheel here. Keep it simple, and you know, that way you can do it in the field on the fly. I mean, if you catch one fish, you don't want to be done for the day, you know, because your hooks have broken away from your bait. Same thing here, you know, it's all rigged to break away. So you catch a fish, you rewrap it, and you go right back to work. Now the other ones here, you know, this takes a little more work, but I'm going to show you guys how.